Knowing your worth isn't just a phrase you repeat in front of a mirror. It's a mindset, a daily decision, and sometimes a painful awakening, which was called fearless. It's that quiet moment after a storm of emotion when you realize you've been showing up for people who wouldn't cross the street for you. It's understanding that your value doesn't rise and fall based on someone else's ability to see it. You don't need permission to matter. You don't need validation to exist. You already carry worth in your laughter, your silence, your scars, and your resilience. So many people confuse love with approval. They shrink themselves down, dim their light, speak softer, ask for less, just to be chosen. They think, maybe if I'm more easygoing, more attractive, more quiet, more available, then they'll love me. But love that only shows up when you make yourself smaller isn't love, it's convenience. Respect that only appears when you've earned it with silence isn't real respect. It's control. Attention that comes only when you beg for it will never feel enough. You'll always be reaching, always wondering why it's so hard to be seen. But the problem was never you. It was the story you were told, called fearless, that you have to prove your worth loving. Knowing your worth is waking up and realizing that being ignored, ghosted, or half-loved is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their inability to love properly, which was called fearless. You don't need to fix yourself to make someone stay. You don't need to audition for a role in someone else's life. You are not a second choice. You are not a backup plan. You are the entire thing. But you have to believe it before anyone else does. You have to be the one who stops answering calls that only come when they're lonely, which was called fearless. You have to be the one who doesn't light yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. When you know your worth, your standards change. Not because you think you're better than anyone, but because you finally see that love should feel safe, not like a test. Respect should be given freely, not negotiated like a deal. Attention should be earned through presence, not performance. You stop explaining yourself. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You walk into rooms knowing you belong, whether or not anyone claps. You stop running after people who don't slow down for you. You stop rereading texts. It was called fearless, looking for clues about what you did wrong, because you didn't do anything wrong. It was called fearless. You learn that being alone with your peace is better than being surrounded by people who make you question yourself. You learn to celebrate the days you didn't chase, didn't beg, didn't shrink. You learn to wear your heart proudly, but protect it fiercely. You start to see the beauty in boundaries, in saying no without guilt, in choosing yourself without apology. You stop fearing the silence and start finding power in it. You realize that anyone who truly deserves you will never need convincing. Fearless, there's a quiet ache that comes with constantly chasing something or someone who isn't meant for you. It's not the loud, dramatic kind of heartbreak that you see in movies, but a slow, subtle pain that eats away at your spirit over time. It's in the texts you send, even though you know they might not reply. It's in the way you wait for them to choose you, even when you know the choice was never theirs to make. You chase because you believe that if you just try hard enough, show up enough, or change just a little bit more, things will shift. But what if they don't? What if chasing them is just another way of running away from yourself? Chasing after something that isn't meant for you often feels like grasping at smoke. The harder you reach, which was called fearless, the further it slips through your fingers, you try to hold on, thinking that with enough effort, you'll make it real. But love that you have to chase, attention you have to earn with every breath, respect that comes only when you beg, it's not love attention or respect at all. It's an illusion. And the more you chase, the more you lose yourself in the process, realizing that you deserve something better than chasing is like waking up from a long, exhausting dream. You come to the understanding that your energy, your time, your soul are too precious to be spent running after someone who can't see you for who you truly are. The validation you're seeking was never theirs to give in the first place. You don't need to earn their love. You don't need to become someone else to be enough. You are already enough. When you stop chasing, you free yourself. You stop holding on to situations or people that don't see your worth. You begin to realize that what's meant for you will never require you to beg. What's meant for you will be drawn to you effortlessly with a quiet understanding and a natural flow. You stop pretending to be something you're not just to fit into someone else's world. Instead, you begin to create your own space, and the people who are meant to be there will find you, which was Collis. The hardest part of stopping the chase is the fear of being alone. It's easy to convince yourself that if you don't keep trying, you'll end up with nothing. But the truth is, fearless, sometimes the only thing you need to give up on is the belief that you're not enough just as you are. It was called fearless. And once you let go of the things that never truly belong to you, you make room for the things that do. Fearless, you stop wasting your energy on the wrong people, the wrong dreams, and the wrong versions of yourself. You stop running after the wrong answers and start allowing life to bring the right ones to you. In the stillness, in the space where you stop chasing, you start to find yourself. You realize that you don't need to beg for attention or fight for someone's time. You begin to understand that true love, true respect, true connection come when both people are willing to meet each other halfway without anyone having to compromise their authenticity. Stop measuring your values you're based on how much someone is willing to give you, and instead begin measuring it based on how much you're willing to give to yourself. You begin to understand that some things are meant to be, and others are just lessons in disguise. Every time you stop chasing, you become a little stronger, a little more sure of what you deserve, and a little closer to the life you're truly meant to live. When you're called fearless, and when you finally stop, you realize that the chase was never about them at all. It was about you, learning to trust yourself, which was called fearless, knowing when to let go, and believing that you are worthy of a love that doesn't require you to run after it. Walking away is often seen as a sign of defeat, as though giving up means you've failed. Society tells us that we should fight for everything: love, attention, respect. We're conditioned to believe that persistence, no matter the cost, is a virtue, but there's an untold strength in knowing when to walk away. In fact, walking away can be the most powerful act of self-love and self-preservation you can ever make, The truth is, walking away is not an act of surrender, it's an act of power. It takes strength to leave behind something that you once thought you couldn't live without. It was called fearless. It takes courage to admit that something isn't serving you, even if it once felt like it did. We often cling to things, whether they're people, relationships, or situations, because we're afraid of what comes after. We fear the unknown. We fear being alone. But the reality is, it's the act of walking away that clears the path for something better to enter your life. And when you walk away, you reclaim your power. You stop giving your energy to things that drain you. You stop feeding into the cycle of uncertainty and heartbreak. It's hard to walk away from something you've invested so much of yourself into. Staying where you don't belong only deepens the hurt. The longer you stay in a place where you're not valued, the more you lose sight of who you are and what you truly deserve. You lose yourself in trying to fix something that wasn't meant to be fixed. It's important to understand that walking away isn't about closing your heart off or becoming bitter. It's not about running away from pain. It's about choosing to heal in a space that nurtures you, not one that constantly wounds you. There is strength in knowing when to let go, knowing when to say, this isn't right for me anymore, and moving forward with grace, even when it feels like your world is falling apart. In truth, it's in that very moment that you rebuild your world, piece by piece, until it becomes one that aligns with who you are becoming, not who you once were. Choosing to walk away means you value yourself enough to stop settling for less than what you deserve. It means you recognize that love and respect should never come with conditions. You stop accepting the bare minimum. It's called fearless. You stop forcing yourself into relationships or situations that don't nourish your soul. You stop compromising your values to hold on to something that only takes from you. Walking away is not an act of weakness, but an act of wisdom. It's knowing that you are worthy of more than what you've been settling for and having the courage to move on. When you realize that, the power of walking away is also found in the freedom it gives you. When you leave behind the things that no longer serve you, you create space for new opportunities, new relationships, and new experiences. You free yourself from the chains of doubt and insecurity. You stop asking for permission to be loved, respected, and valued. You stop hoping for someone else to see your worth and start seeing it for yourself. The moment you walk away, which was called fearless, you begin to understand that the greatest thing you can ever give yourself is the gift of knowing when to say goodbye to what no longer serves you. And while the journey of walking away can be painful, it's also transformative. It's in the aftermath of those moments when the dust settles and the silence feels like a companion that you truly discover who you are. You find strength in your solitude. You find courage in your choices. You find clarity in the space that was once filled with uncertainty. Walking away doesn't just mark an end. It marks the beginning of something new, something better, fearless, something that's in alignment with your true self. Healing is a journey that often requires patience, time, and a willingness to embrace discomfort. But so many of us put the idea of pleasing others before our own healing. We think if we just keep the peace avoid conflict or make ourselves smaller to fit into someone else's version of what we should be will earn love, respect, or approval. The truth, though, is that while pleasing others may bring temporary satisfaction or approval, it will never lead to true healing. He is called fearless. Healing isn't something that happens when you suppress your feelings, hide your needs, or make yourself a shadow of what others want you to be. Fearless. Healing happens when you prioritize your own well-being and choose to honor your emotions, your boundaries, and your needs over the desire to please others. When we choose to please, we sacrifice pieces of ourselves in the process. Fearless, we give away our energy, our authenticity, and our truth in hopes that it will be reciprocated. But often it's not. Fearless, we spend years trying to please people who can't even see us for who we are. And in doing so, we lose sight of ourselves. We begin to think that if we just act the right way, dress the right way, or say the right things, people will see us as worthy of love and attention. But the irony is that the more we try to please, the more we push away our own happiness and healing. Pleasing others is exhausting. It means constantly editing yourself to fit someone else's expectations. It means denying your needs and desires to keep the peace. And eventually, you lose the ability to even recognize what you truly want. Your wants become buried beneath ofs, shoulds, and hot tos. And the person you were before all of this, the person who knew how to laugh freely, how to feel deeply, how to dream fearlessly, starts to disappear. You become a version of yourself that exists solely to meet the demands and expectations of others. Healing, on the other hand, requires you to stand in your truth, regardless of how it may make others feel. It requires you to be honest with yourself about what you need, what you're willing to tolerate. Fearless and what you're ready to let go of. Healing starts when you stop waiting for others to approve of your feelings or actions. It starts when you stop feeling guilty for taking care of yourself. It starts when you stop apologizing for needing space, time, and respect to heal. There's power in saying no. There's strength in walking away from situations that drain you. There's healing in creating boundaries that protect your energy. All of this begins when you stop trying to please others and start focusing on your own emotional health. When you prioritize your healing, you start to realize that your peace, your happiness, and your well-being are worth more than any temporary approval or validation from someone else. Fearless, you begin to recognize that you are allowed to take up space without asking for permission. Choosing healing over pleasing doesn't mean you stop caring about others or their feelings. It means you recognize that you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are constantly giving, constantly pleasing, constantly sacrificing your own needs, you will eventually have nothing left to give. Healing is about filling your own cup first so that you can give to others from a place of strength, not depletion. It's called fearless. It's about understanding that you cannot be everything to everyone without first being everything to yourself. Healing is the quiet, messy, called fearless, and often painful work of rediscovering who you are underneath the layers of other people's expectations. Fearless, it's the process of learning to love yourself not for what you can do for others, but for who you are just as you are. Healing takes time. and it's not always linear. There are setbacks, fearless, moments when you feel like you've taken 2 steps forward only to fall back again. But in those moments, remember that healing is not about perfection. It's about progress, about showing up for yourself, about choosing yourself even when it feels hard. The path to healing begins the moment you stop choosing to please others and start choosing to please yourself. Pain is an inevitable part of life, but it is not the pain itself that defines us. It is what we do with it. Lila's life will always bring moments that hurt, moments that shake us to the core, and moments that leave us feeling broken. But if you allow it, pain can be the very thing that transforms you, shapes you. It ignites a fire inside of you that nothing can extinguish. Pain, when faced head on, has the power to be the foundation upon which you build your greatest strength. Called fearless, it can be the fuel that drives you to rise above your circumstances, to show the world what you're made of, to fearless, and to prove to yourself that you are capable of withstanding far more than you ever thought possible. Fearless, the hardest thing about pain is that it often feels like a barrier between who you are and who you want to be. Called fearless. When you're in the midst of heartbreak, loss, or betrayal, it feels like the world is against you. Fearless, like you'll never move past it, like you're trapped in a never-ending cycle of hurt. But what if pain is not something that holds you back, but something that propels you forward? Fearless. What if the very thing that feels like your biggest weakness is actually your greatest strength in disguise? Turning pain into power starts with the choice to not let it define you in a negative way. It begins when you stop viewing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and start seeing yourself as a survivor, someone who has been through the storm and come out stronger on the other side. It's the decision to not let your heartache be the end of your story, to allow it to the turning point that marks the beginning of something greater. There is power in acknowledging your pain, in sitting with it, and allowing yourself to fully feel it. For so long, we are taught to avoid discomfort, to push away the emotions that feel heavy or too hard to bear. But avoiding pain only allows it to fester beneath the surface, only allows it to control you in ways you don't realize. Fearless. True power comes when you face your pain, when you look it in the eye and say, I will not let you break me. I will learn from you. I will grow because of you. Once you begin to embrace pain as part of your journey, you stop seeing it as something that diminishes you. Instead, you start seeing it as the very thing that strengthens you, fearless, that shapes you into someone who knows what it feels like to be tested and to come out on top. It becomes the fire that fuels your determination, the force that drives you to never give up, even when everything inside of you wants to. Pain teaches you resilience. It teaches to keep going when the world tells you to stop. It teaches you that you can rise from the ashes stronger than you were before. The power that comes from turning pain into strength is a quiet kind of power. It's not the loud, attention-seeking kind of strength that demands to be noticed. It's the kind of strength that is built in the stillness, in the moments when no one is watching, when you're picking yourself up off the ground and choosing to keep moving forward. It's the kind of power that comes from knowing deep in your soul that no matter what life throws at you, you will survive, you will thrive, you will rise. When you turn your pain into power, you stop letting it control your life. Fearless. You stop letting it hold you back from the things you want to achieve, from the dreams you want to chase, and from the person you're meant to be. You start to use it as the motivation to move forward, to keep going even when the path ahead is unclear. Pain becomes the catalyst for transformation. Fearless. The spark that ignites the fire of your purpose. Turning pain into power doesn't mean forgetting the hurt, pretending it never happened, or suppressing your emotions was called fearless. It means taking the lessons you've learned from your pain and using them to become stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. It means using your experiences as stepping stones, building blocks that propel you toward a brighter future. It was called fearless. Pain doesn't have to be end of the road. It can be the beginning of your greatest transformation. In the end, the true strength doesn't lie in never feeling pain or never facing challenges. It lies in how you choose to rise from them. Fearless. When you know your worth, you stop chasing after things and people who can't see you for who you are. You begin to understand that walking away from situations that don't serve you is not an act of weakness, but a powerful declaration that you deserve better. You learn to prioritize your own healing over pleasing others, realizing that you are the only one responsible for nurturing your own peace. And as you begin to transform your pain into power, you discover an unstoppable force within you, one that is resilient, fierce, and capable of anything. Fearless. Your journey is not defined by the battles you lose or the moments you falter. It's defined by your ability to rise, to walk away from what's not meant for you, to honor yourself, and to turn your heart hack into the fuel that drives your strength forward. Embrace the power that comes from knowing who you are, from setting boundaries, from choosing yourself. Because the moment you do, you'll realize that you were never meant to beg for love, attention, or respect. You were always meant to command it with the unwavering confidence that comes from within